My name is Mark Dallmeier. A little bit of background, you guys will see in the first couple of slides, 6-time co-founder, 3-time CEO of other people's companies. That is a very interesting discussion that we can have over a bottle of Jack Daniels. We're here to talk about technical debt and executive debt. And this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart because when I'm not building and running cyber and technology and consulting companies, I'm a consultant to the industry. So I've assessed and audited over 400 different companies in my career. I've done turnaround transformation work, helped early stage companies launch all the way up to Fortune 10, dominate markets. So I've been exposed to executive debt throughout my entire career. And what I'll just share with you is this was a really reflective process for us writing the book that we wrote, because I am absolutely guilty of a lot of the things in this book. Ego-based decisions, bias, believed that I could do probably things that I couldn't do because I was ego-driven, or because I had been there, done that before, and I had been successful before, but what makes you successful in one company does not guarantee success in the next. Why? Well, because every market's different, every company's different, every product and service is different, every culture is different, and your leadership team is different. Even if you take the existing leadership team that you had, that you were successful with, and drop them into another company, still doesn't mean that you're going to be successful. So those of us with gray hair that have been leaders for a long time, we know this, right? So we keep our friends and our colleagues really close because we have a trusted network of people. So let me talk a little bit about executive debt and why this is really important. Question for the group. What came first? The chicken or the egg, or technical debt or executive debt? Executive debt? Executive debt? Okay. I believe you. I believe you. Look, I have a very strong opinion about this, as you guys can tell. I don't believe that you can have technical debt without executive debt. Why? Because somebody made a decision or they didn't make a decision, and that created technical debt. Now, here's the interesting dynamic about this, is decisions are really interesting at the C-suite and at the board level, because oftentimes as employees and even senior executives, you have no visibility into what's really going on. You don't know that that company's actually being sold. You don't know that there's a hostile takeover at the board. You don't know some of the underlying things that are happening at the C-suite, at the board level. You don't know that the board's not happy with the CEO and they're going to replace the CEO. You don't know these things until it happens. So decisions get made in terms of investing in things and not investing in things, but they're handed to you on a plate. Deal with this, Brett. Right? Brett comes in, hey, you know, I've been there, done that. I'm Tarzan, I can handle this, right? But the problem is you don't have all of the inside information. So here's the reality. As you start going through this process with me, you start looking at what are we talking about and why are we talking about this? As cybersecurity and risk and compliance leaders, you must understand how risk gets created within your organization. Risk gets created because of bad decisions, no decision, misinformation, miseducation, right? So that creates risk. It creates debt. So I'm explaining this and we're socializing this and giving the books away so you can take these concepts, take this thought process, bring it back into your organizations and challenge your teams around executive debt. Most C-suite executives and boards understand technical debt. A lot of them do. Brett's like,
If they're aware at all.
if they're aware at all, right? So, but they're not conscious about executive debt because there's a lack of accountability oftentimes at the C-suite. They haven't thought through the long-term impact of short-term decisions. You all live with those decisions. So do your peers in IT. So do your peers in operations, okay? So the why is because we need to change the course and educate executives and boards on the fact that their lack of decision or their behavior, and I'm on this page, okay? If you look at the far right on this page, the far right image illustrates executive debt. Resistance to strategy or strategic change. Resistance down at the bottom of organizational change, adding talent or removing talent or replacing people. Not invented here mentality. How many times have we talked about that in this industry? We have a not invented here culture. I can't drive change. I'm the new person or the new team coming in because not invented here, that's not what we do here. It wasn't our idea, so we're not going to adopt it. That's closed-mindedness, right? It's bias, it's ego-based decisions, right? And that destroys culture.
A lot of it also driven by older organizations where people have grown through the organization and don't have any exposure outside the organization.
Amen, great point, right? When all you know is what you know, and you've grown up in organizations, right? Maybe it's a family owned, right? Maybe it's owned by a family studio, right? Maybe it's private equity. Manufacturing, healthcare, right? Those legacy types of industries, you only know what you know, okay? So this is significant. You cannot fully eradicate technical debt if you have executive debt. That is a war you will not win. So you have to socialize these concepts. And we have surveys and we have assessments. Yes, sir.
So do you think you'll ever fully get rid of executive debt? The answer is
no.
No.
We're talking about human behavior.
Exactly.
Right? What you can do though is it's about span of control. You can plan for it, you could work to mitigate it, right? You could raise awareness around it, you can train and educate on it. Okay? That's what this book was actually written to do, was to increase awareness. Why? Change doesn't happen externally. No change is driven externally. Change only happens internally as you reflect. As a leader, as a culture, as an organization, you must be reflective, right? And be coachable and lean in to coaching and mentoring and reflection. And if you don't have a leadership team around you that's doing that, they will kill your organization before you even get started. So, there are force multipliers in the market that we can't control. The global pandemic, what happens in the White House, okay? Again, not to get political, but the reality is we don't control what's happening outside of our four walls, outside of our own being. What you have to do is you have to plan for change. You have to take control and ownership of your mentality, of your heart, right? Your heart, your soul, your mind, your thought process, and your behavior. So it starts with each one of you. You control you, and then you impact others and sow into others and help them to control themselves, okay? We cannot control the tsunami globally of what's happening with AI. Some organizations won't exist in 5 years. Other organizations will exist, but they will look vastly different. Organizationally, product lines, service lines, internal capabilities, etc. Things are changing. You're not going to stop that. Okay? But what AI has done is it's really brought executive debt out to the table. The pandemic started this. If you didn't pivot during the pandemic, you died. If you couldn't change and adapt IT service delivery, cybersecurity risk, your business lines, your product lines, how you were operating, you died. So what I've tried to do on this particular page is list out and document traditional technological debt attributes as compared to the second column, which is executive debt attributes. So now I'm beginning to connect the dots for you so you see the interdependency between executive debt and technical debt. Okay? Now, yeah, go ahead.
One of the things, the cybersecurity risks, I think GRC risks meshes with cybersecurity so much that those two are debt that companies need to grab onto and join.
Right. Agree 100%. When I'm talking about cyber, right, I'm also insinuating compliance or regulatory compliance, right, as part of overall risk, right? Right. It's a great observation, Bob. And so on the next slide, yes, sir, go ahead.
And I would also say on security neglect, training is massive throughout the organization.
Training, education.
Awareness.
Right, awareness, general awareness.
Just not training.
You know, the body within the United States that helps train and develop board of directors, right, strongly recommends from a board structure that you have a CISO or somebody technical or somebody that has knowledge of cyber and risk on the board. And they launched a number of years ago, right, a lot of different training and awareness products and services, right, to try to address what you're talking about. There is a very specific impact to the business that executive debt creates. And it's even more significant than technical debt. Executive debt directly impacts your ability to innovate, to be resilient, to be sustainable, right? And so again, just to let you know, I've gamified this, so we're going to play a little game. I'd like all of you guys to participate if you can. I have a scorecard that I will email you. This is a real brief survey. Just send me an email. I'll send you guys the document. It's an Excel document. It's got 12 to 14 questions on it. Produces a heat map and a little spider chart that shows you how much executive debt you have. So that's a cool little tool. But here's what we're going to do. We're going to play a little game. This is called the Debt Sherpa game. I'm the CISO. You guys are my Sherpa. Okay? You're my guide. So here's what this looks like. I'm going to have you guys pick 3 cards. And those cards are going to be a combination of technical debt and executive debt. So I'm not going to know, just like in real life, I'm not going to know the debt that I'm walking into or the risk that I'm walking into on a day-to-day basis. Okay? So I'm going to ask you to pick a card from that deck. Hold on to it for a second. Okay? Matt? Just one. Just one? Yep. Perfect. All right. Now, we're going to throw a couple of jacks in the deck. There's going to be some unknowns. If you turn to page 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 in the deck, you have a list of the top 30 technical debt risks and executive debt risks. And you also have a list.
There wasn't any
of escalations that could hit you in your organization at any time. Okay? So I'm going to ask Bob, because he's a problem child, to
Are your solutions numerically aligned with your risks or not?
they're not. They're just listed. They're just numbered. Can you pick one of those? All right. All right. I'm going to collect the red cards now. Who's got the red card? Red card. Red card. All right. These are our risks. These are our debts. Okay? Sorry, I'm an old guy. All right. First risk, first debt. Risk avoidance instead of risk management. Executives ignore risks instead of proactively managing them. Executives are ignoring risks instead of proactively managing them. Is that a technical debt or an executive debt? Executive debt. Second risk, lack of diversity in decision making. Leadership is dominated by a single point of view. Executive debt. Two executive debts. The last debt. Poor communication between departments, security teams, and executives operating in silos. Executive debt. They're all executive debt. So I'm going to pull a technical debt. Okay? Technical debt, because I got to mix it up. Outdated web applications, vulnerabilities, and old websites increase the risk of attacks. Technical debt? It's a technical debt, right? Outdated web apps with vulnerabilities. Now, guys, look at the solutions page, which are typically in blue. How would I solve this technical debt problem? Outdated web application. Where do I begin? Obviously, we haven't been investing in updating the web applications, the APIs, or right, the infrastructure around that. How do I address it? Secure DevOps.
So quickly or long term?
Let's do short term, but let's talk about long term. Great question.
So short term, you throw a web application firewall in front of it.
Okay.
And that basically limits your exposure until you can get the other back end going.
Okay. Zero trust. Lock it all down.
Is that what you're
Right, right. Any other ideas?
legacy system replacement?
Legacy system replacement. Okay. How do you get this done? How do you get this done when you've got poor communications between leadership, security, and IT, and you got a risk avoidance set of executives in place? Tie it to the business solutions owner.
And they're going to drive basically the priority as far as the availability of their product or their service.
Right, so you're not telling them what the priority is. The business owner, right, is championing that process. Love it. Revenue impact analysis. Build the business case, right? Do the analysis. Do the work. Socialize it with a C-suite.
If it's ego-based, you need to change at least a third, change their opinion to get everybody to change.
I love this. He said, if it's ego-based decision-making, you have to get them to change their opinion. So you actually have to drive change from the inside of that person. This was a great question.
But that requires reflection on the individual's.
Right, or somebody that can influence that individual. So Ryan asked me this, Ryan Murray asked me this after the last session. He said, how would you go about doing this when your entire leadership team is ego-based or biased or closed-minded? How do you do this?
Make it visible, make it public.
You can make it public, right? There's some risk associated personally with you doing that, right? So But here's a recommendation. Does anybody on the leadership team participate in coaching? Do they have a mentor? Who are their mentors? Who are their coaches? Do you know your executive team that well? Do you know who's open to coaching? Do they have a personal board of advisors? Who are they? How can you get to them? Right? Is there an opportunity for you to connect because you're looking for some personal mentorship or coaching for yourself? Right? Maybe that's an angle. Hey, you know, you have a mentor, you have a coach. You know, can you connect me because I'm looking for some personal coaching myself? Get access, socialize, make it their idea, right? And then work backwards through this. This is all about relationships, right? But getting somebody to reflect who is ego-driven, a high dominance, a high D from a DISC perspective, like it's really difficult to influence them. Change has to come from the inside. Great point. Great reflection.
And it's like in politics. How do you swing a senator?
Right, right. You got to find out what's important to them. If they're going to take an ego hit, if they're going to take a monetary hit, if they're going to take a lifestyle hit, right, because they chose not to make a decision or they chose not to invest in a specific area, then that's what needs to be communicated. But you don't want to be the messenger that gets shot, right? So you, right. Some of this is politics. And I'll be the first one to tell you that I'm not a really good politician. Okay, I don't really like politics, but I do understand the human psyche, and I do understand people really well.
That's the problem that we have as technical engineers, is we're not typically on that side and understand people's psyches.
Right.
That's it has to be dealt with personally for each individual that's in this space.
I love that reflection. He said, look, as engineers, most of us aren't people, right? People persons, and we don't understand personality types and behavior types. So if you've never gone through Myers-Briggs, if you've never gone through a DISC assessment, if you've never gone through personality assessments, strength finders, etc., definitely do it because it'll change your life and it'll give you insight into yourself, number one. So change starts from the inside, right? But that's a fantastic observation. And what we need to do as leaders within security is really connect the dots and understand, if I don't do this, who else is going to do it? The next CISO that comes in, right?
Hey guys, we're going to be winding down. Give me about a minute, 30 seconds, whatever it takes.
All right. So here's what we're going to do, guys. I gave you the books. Within the back part of this deck, thank you for playing the game, by the way. Thank you for those who participated, played the game. I value and appreciate you. If you keep scrolling through the deck, take the last few minutes. There is an internal self-assessment around executive debt. So take a look at that. It's 2 pages. It's about 25 questions. You score the questions 1 to 5, okay? If you're scoring over a certain amount, you know you've got executive debt. Okay? My recommendation and availability to you is, if you want to talk about this, if you want to go through an executive debt discussion to talk about how to socialize this, how to deal with it, how to approach it, reach out. You have my contact information. It's in the deck. Okay? Go to aspire6.com/CactusCon. aspire6.com/CactusCon. And you will get this asset and all of the tools that I talked about today. Okay?
Wow, thank you.
Yep.
That's huge.
Value and appreciate you guys. Okay, so take the last few minutes and reflect. I'm still around for Q&A if you guys want to talk or ask questions. So,
It's interesting, long-term change is an emotional change versus
Yes, sir.
logic. So you got to basically, and Emotional change comes through experience or being able to relate experience to others in a way that impacts them.
Amen. Absolutely.
And that's,
Great
that's the hard
reflection.
thing. I mean, because we're
Willing to change even when it's tough on you. You need to be able to change and change the culture.
Right.
That's the hardest.
It is.
Step one, right?
And that's the gut check. That's the gut check that all of you have to ask yourself is, am I in a culture and in a leadership system, right, that would enable this type of change and reflection to happen?
and are you willing to stay? If not,
Right? Because if not, you've got your answer. Right? What's that?
Read what leadership is.
Absolutely.
That's 5 parts.
Yep. That's it. That's what it is.
And I need a package.
Actually, I need that one. He gets to keep that one because I wrote that one.
Mark,
Yes, sir.
what I'd like to add to that is there's also this concept of like an overstory that the executives create together, like for the organization. Like this is the story of the organization. And that needs to change at some point as well to get rid of that way of thinking.
I love that. You're so spot on.
I'm not sure. I mean, there's Revenge of the Tipping Point. It goes all about that.
Well said. Well said.
That's where the magic fruit comes.
Thank you so much. Love the reflection. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the active participation.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you.